Hi, everyone, and welcome to That 80/20 Girl podcast. I'm your host, Ruchika, and thank you for joining me this Wednesday to hang out. So, today's topic is a very exciting one. It's called How to Become a 5 a.m. Person. If you've ever envied those early risers who seem to have their day together before most of us even hit snooze, honestly, this episode is for you. Waking up at 5 a.m. is about more than just getting an early start. It's about unlocking a sense of discipline, focus, and calm before the chaos of the day begins. But it's not always easy to make that shift, especially if you're a night owl. So, how can you train yourself to wake up early without feeling like you're dragging yourself out of bed? We're going to break down the science, share some practical tips, and discuss how to make the 5 a.m. habit stick. Whether you're wanting to gain more productive hours in the day, improve your mental clarity, or just create a more peaceful morning routine, this episode is packed with actionable advice to help you become the 5 a.m. person you've always wanted to be. So let's jump in. Before I get into this week's episode, let's do a quick weekly recap. This week has been all about slowing down and focusing on some much needed self care. After a whirlwind of travel to and from Bombay due to family matters, I just decided to take a break, unwind, and enjoy the calm pace of life for a change. It felt so refreshing to embrace the stillness and savor each moment of it. One of the highlights of the week was catching up with my college friends. We spent some quality time together practicing for the dance at Prachiti's wedding, which is in 2 weeks. So we had a cozy, chill afternoon at Shruti's house, who, by the way, has the cutest 6-month-old son. He was an absolute joy to be around, and his laugh was so contagious. I just couldn't stop smiling all the time. He's so cute. While we were playing with him, we munched on some incredible snacks, one of which was made by a friend's mom, who is an amazing cook, and she sent over her famous hummus, pita bread, and spicy tahini. The flavors were out of this world. I just couldn't get enough. She even sent some yum falafels, which normally I'm not a falafel girly, but it was loaded with so much flavor and zest, I just couldn't stop eating. After the snack fest, we got to work rehearsing the dance songs for the Sangeet, which was a total blast. I've missed so many weddings in our group since I moved to America, so this chance to relive those experiences with my friends was truly special. Later, we headed to Pizza Express. It's one of these pizza places which one of my girlfriends is obsessed with. We went for a much needed girls' night out. I treated myself to this picante jalapeno tequila based cocktail. I'm a sucker for anything spicy, especially in my drinks. So we caught up over those drinks, had pizza, and it was one of those nights that just felt right, easy, fun, and filled with laughter. And it, of course, did not end there because Rowan and his friends were partying right next to that place, very close by. So I popped over to meet them because I hadn't seen them in forever. It's one of our usual hangout spots, this bar we always frequent. It's always a nostalgic and fun time. It was the perfect end to a Saturday that felt like everything I needed. Another highlight of my week has been watching one Christmas movie a day for this whole week. I fully embrace the holiday spirit. Yes, it's November, and I'm already all in on the Christmas feels. And it's just been pure self care. There's something so comforting and nostalgic about those cozy holiday movies. And honestly, it's the perfect guilty pleasure. In the hustle of everyday life, I needed a way to slow down and indulge in something that felt both festive and fun. So each day, at some point or the other, I would curl up with a cup of tea, turn on a holiday classic, and let myself fully soak in the warmth of the season. It's a little escape, a reminder to enjoy the simple pleasures, and honestly, a much needed break from the usual routine. It's become my daily ritual of joy, giving myself permission to relax and soak in the magic of the holidays, no matter how early they come around. Another highlight of this week has been that I got back to one of my favorite Saturday rituals, running. I've got to be honest, it has fallen off for a while. Life just got hectic, motivation waned, and before I knew it, I wasn't really making time for it. But now that we're into my winter arc, I decided to hit the pavement again. And let me tell you, getting that run in on a crisp, chilly Saturday morning felt incredible. The dopamine hit was next level. Honestly, it felt like my body had been craving it without me even realizing. And that run reminded me why I love it so much. It's not just about exercise, it's about clearing my mind, strengthening my body, and finding that peaceful rhythm of movement. And that's when it hit me. Running isn't just something I do for fitness, it's my reset. It helps me ground myself, start the weekend with focus, and feel like I've accomplished something right off the bat. Getting back to it felt like reconnecting with an old friend, and now I'm committed to making it my Saturday ritual throughout these winter months. It just works, and I'm excited to keep it going. One of the other huge highlights of my week has been the daily hour long catch ups with my dad. Now we talk every day, usually 3 or 4 times a day, but those are quick 5-10 minute chats, just the usual check ins. Anyone who knows my dad knows how he's completely obsessed with me, so it's no surprise that we talk so much. But this week was different because he was on this work trip and he had to drive a couple of hours between meetings each day. So the conversations we had were a perfect mix of the most wholesome and the most random everyday topics. We talked about everything and nothing at once, and it was just so special. Those daily chats became this little ritual, and somehow they brought us even closer, which I don't even think it's possible because we're already so close. Honestly, it's so endearing how much he genuinely cares, and the fact that he considers me his best friend, it just melts my heart. I love him so much, it's crazy. All in all, it was a week of slow, joyful moments with the people I love, and I'm feeling more centered than I have in a very long time. So now let's get into our episode. Back in May, I was doing this consistently after coming back from my Thailand trip because of the time difference that I just ended up being sleepy at 9 and waking up at 5. And it was very easy for me back then to do it because it just felt naturally like my circadian rhythm had adjusted to that time difference. But then in June, when I went to Jamaica for my summer trip, my whole routine was thrown out of whack. And since then, I started waking up at 7:30, 8 a.m. I mean, that isn't so bad, but I used to love my 5 a.m. mornings where I would be awake before everyone and I had the best morning routine. And I could focus on having slow mornings that would just make my whole day so much better. This is also where I developed my favorite morning routine. And if you haven't listened to that episode, you can go back and listen to it right after this one. So I decided that the winter arc was the perfect time to reintroduce the 5 a.m. routine into my life. For me, waking up early really impacts my energy levels throughout the day. I find that I'm the most productive and energized when I start my day at the crack of dawn. Of course, everyone's routine is different, but for me, if I don't work out first thing in the morning, the motivation just dwindles as the day goes by. The later I wake up, the harder it becomes to follow through with my plans. If I don't get my workout done early, it's on my mind all day. It doesn't matter if I have other things to do, it just lingers in the background, nagging me so much. If it's a rest day, I'm fine, no pressure. But if I've scheduled a workout and I don't get it done first thing, I feel like this underlying anxiety and frustration building up. It's almost like a domino effect. Once I miss that morning window, I start to feel overwhelmed and find myself spiraling into bad habits. I might skip meals or opt for unhealthy snacks, which it's like there is one thing after the other catching up with me if I don't get that morning routine set. I'll tell myself it's just one cheat meal, but then I end up lounging around, lying in bed, and binge watching TV. And once I fall into that mindset, it's so hard for me to break from it, and the whole day feels like a lost cause. It's almost like this small choice, whether or not I wake up in the morning, sets the tone for everything else. If I get that win in early, the rest of the day feels so much easier to manage. And when I don't, the whole day starts to unravel and I end up making decisions I know aren't good for me. That's why I'm so committed to getting back into this routine. And it's not just about fitness, but it's about setting myself up for a productive, balanced day. So, here are some of my favorite tips to make you a morning person or specifically a 5 a.m. person like I'm trying to be right now. The very first tip is create a morning routine that's unique to you. This is arguably the most important step in starting a 5 a.m. morning routine. You need to create a morning routine that's tailored to your own goals and your needs. You need to get out of that mindset that you have to follow someone else's routine, whether that's what you see influencers doing or what's trending on social media. What works for them may not work for you, and trying to copy it is only setting yourself up for failure. Your life, your goals, and your energy levels are all different. So, your routine needs to be tailored to what works for you. For example, I work from home, so I don't have a commute, which gives me more flexibility to structure my day. I might wake up at 6 a.m. some days instead of 5 a.m. because I have that freedom. But if you're someone with a long commute, your routine is going to look very different. And that's okay. Your morning needs to account for your unique circumstances. So don't feel pressure to copy someone else's routine just because it looks perfect on social media. And the same goes for all those ideal habits, quote unquote, you see, like journaling, meditation, or green juices. While they might be great for some people, they might not be realistic for you. You've really got to know yourself and experiment with what feels right. That's the key, trial and error. If you're not honest with yourself about what you truly need, it's going to be hard to structure your day in a way that's sustainable. If you're trying to cram everything into your morning, like journaling, meditation, exercise, meal prep, you'll just end up feeling overwhelmed and burned out. So take time to build a morning routine that fits your lifestyle and your needs. The next tip that I absolutely love is just like a morning routine, don't forget about your night routine. A good morning routine starts the night before. If your night routine isn't dialed in, if you're not getting enough sleep or you're not preparing for the next day, you'll struggle to wake up early and energized. For example, if you want to wake up at 5 a.m., but you're staying up super late every night, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're not getting restful sleep, you're not going to be able to consistently wake up early. You'll reach a point of burnout, and that's when the routine just starts to break down. So start by focusing on your nighttime habits. You don't need a fancy routine, but you do need to create a system that helps you wind down and ensures that you have good quality sleep. I've shared my night routine in a previous episode, so please be sure to check it out if you need some inspiration. For me, one of the key elements is setting out my workout clothes for the next day. This removes any decision fatigue and helps my morning feel stress free. I also do a quick cleanup at night with a timer and watch a good show. It's amazing how much better I feel when I wake up to a tidy home. Another important part of my routine is avoiding blue light and doing something calming, like reading a book with some yum herbal tea. This just helps my brain relax and get into sleep mode. Ultimately, you need to be disciplined about getting to bed on time. For me, if I want to be asleep by 9:30, I need to be in bed by 8:30 p.m. And that's been especially important during this winter arc. If you want to be successful with a 5 a.m. wake up, you need to prioritize sleep. Waking up early is near impossible if you haven't had a restful night's sleep. That means setting up a night routine that helps you wind down and actually fall asleep is imperative. Whether it's cutting out blue light, using supplements like magnesium, or creating a calm environment, finding out what works for you is key. If you take time to research and follow some proven tips for improving your sleep, I promise it'll dramatically improve how you feel. Whether it's through supplementation like magnesium or addressing potential nutrient deficiencies that may be affecting your sleep, it's worth considering a holistic approach. I recommend working with a professional if you are not sure where to start, but also focus on the habits that may be hindering your rest. For instance, making sure you get to bed at a reasonable hour and giving yourself enough time to actually fall asleep. Create a sleep friendly environment, keep your room dark and cool, avoid blue light from screens, and eliminate background noise. Try maybe using satin pillowcases. Small adjustments like these have a big impact. By preparing your body and mind for rest, you'll ensure a more restful night's sleep, which is key to waking up feeling refreshed and ready to tackle your morning. Prioritize sleep, and I promise you it'll pay off because getting that quality rest is crucial for feeling energized and alert when the morning hits. One of my next tips is gradually ease into early mornings. So, when it comes to waking up earlier, don't try to rip off the band aid just all at once. If you're used to waking up at 7 or 8 a.m., like I am, and suddenly you set your alarm for 5 a.m., you're going to face a lot of resistance. This resistance will end up making it harder for you to stay committed. And when you rely on motivation alone, it can quickly fade, leaving you burnt out. Instead, ease into it. Gradually shift your wake up time earlier by 15 to 30 minutes at a time. It's about small incremental changes. Similarly, if you want to go to bed earlier, start by shifting your bedtime by 15 minutes each night. Over time, those small adjustments will add up, and waking up earlier will feel much more natural. This is the 1% better mindset. You don't have to overhaul your whole routine overnight. The key is consistency. Start with one simple change, like going to bed earlier or waking up 30 minutes earlier, and focus on making that a habit before adding anything else. The biggest mistake people make is trying to change too much too soon, like waking up at 5 a.m., starting a workout, drinking green juice, journaling, meditating, and all of that on the first day. It's overwhelming and it's a recipe for burnout. Instead, focus on one goal at a time and build from there. And trust me, this gradual approach is much more sustainable in the long run. Now, my next tip is have a plan for your morning. When you wake up, you need a clear plan of what you're going to do. If you just wake up at 5 a.m. and think, I'll figure it out, that's just a recipe for stress and anxiety. Because without a plan, you might end up wasting time deciding what to do. And before you know it, the morning's gone and you haven't accomplished anything. For me, I like to have a set order to my morning and I block out time for each task. For example, my workout is non negotiable. It's the first thing I do. I know that if I delay it, I'll lose motivation and the rest of my day will suffer. I also don't like to overcomplicate it. So I focus on the essentials. I get up, I do my skincare, I drink my chia seed water, journal, have my bulletproof coffee, and get straight into my workout. By keeping it simple with these essentials, I make sure I actually get things done. Having a plan also helps avoid that dreaded decision fatigue. And that is so important for me. For example, I don't worry about eating a pre workout snack because I know my body works best if I skip it. That's just something I've learned through trial and error. What works for you might be completely different, and that's okay. The point is to design a routine that feels easy to follow, have a plan, and that will set you up for success. Now, my next tip, and a very important one, is schedule it and stick to it. The key to staying consistent is scheduling everything. If you don't put your morning routine into your calendar or treat it like an important appointment, it's easy to let things slide. Treat it like a meeting you can't cancel. Once you commit to that mindset, you'll be much more likely to stick to your routine. For example, I don't just hope I'll get my workout in, I schedule it. It's a priority, so I treat it like any other commitment in the day. I even put reminders in my calendar and I structure my day around it. The best part is that once your routine becomes second nature, you won't need to be as rigid. You'll know exactly what to do without having to check your calendar every time. But in the beginning, even I've done this where I used to write down every single thing I needed to get done and I would schedule it, and that would make all the difference in keeping me on track. One more tip, which I think is very helpful, is tackle the hardest task first. So if there's one thing you do in the morning, make it the hardest task on your list. For me, it's working out. If I don't get my workout in before 10 a.m., it's not happening. Maybe your hardest task is different. It could be meditation, it could be writing, or even working on a big project. But the key is to get it done early. Once that tough task is out of the way, you'll feel this sense of accomplishment and momentum for the rest of your day. Trust me, knocking out that hardest task first thing makes everything feel so much easier. My next rule is something I've seen a lot of influencers do, which is using the 5 second rule to get out of bed. So try the 5 second rule from Mel Robbins. When your alarm goes off, count down from five in your head: five, four, three, two, one. And by the time you hit zero, your feet should be on the floor. This simple trick takes away the thinking. If you lie there too long, your brain just starts making excuses: snooze, more sleep, 5 extra minutes, and before you know it, you're just in a vicious cycle. But by using the 5 second countdown, you take action immediately, which has no room for hesitation. It's a game changer for getting out of bed and starting your day on the right foot. Let's move on to my next tip. My next tip is wake up and go to bed at the same time. It's easy to overlook, but setting a consistent wake up and bedtime is crucial, especially when you're trying to establish a morning routine. A lot of us think I just need to get to bed earlier so I can wake up early, but it's about more than that. When you stick to a set schedule, your body begins to adapt, creating a natural rhythm, just like the seasons. In winter, our routines shift naturally compared to summer, and the same concept applies to your sleep schedule as well. Over time, your body learns when it's time to wind down and when it's time to wake up. The consistency part is key though, because what time you go to bed directly affects how much sleep you get. For example, if you want to wake up at 5 a.m., you should plan to be in bed by 9 or 10 p.m. at the latest. Subtracting 7 to 9 hours of sleep from your wake up time is a good rule of thumb. It's also smart to add an extra hour to account for falling asleep so you're not stressing over whether or not you're getting enough rest. The more consistent you are with your sleep times, the more your body will naturally align with the schedule. You'll start feeling sleepy at the same time every night and wake up feeling refreshed at the same time every morning. This has been happening with me now since I started doing it since October 1st, and it's been an absolute game changer. Also, don't forget about the power of sunlight in the morning. Getting outside and exposing your eyes to natural light first thing is just going to be a lifesaver for you in the long run for syncing your circadian rhythm, especially in the winter months when sunlight is limited. This is a tip from Andrew Huberman that has worked wonders for many. I try to do this too, that when I wake up, the first thing I do is I'll go out and stand on my patio, and it's just helped me so much. Now, the next tip is, which is my last tip, which is be consistent, even on weekends. If you want to establish a strong morning routine, wake up at 5 a.m., you have to stick to it, even on weekends. It's tempting to sleep in, but keeping your schedule consistent every single day, especially in the beginning, is what really makes the difference. Whether you're waking up at 5 a.m. or sticking to any other routine, consistency is the best way to build long term success. I promise you that. You can't expect to develop a solid habit if you only do it for a week or just during 1 month of a year. Commit to this routine now and make it a permanent part of your life. Over time, it'll become second nature and you'll start to see the results you've been working for. The more you stick to it, the easier it becomes, and eventually it won't even feel like a choice anymore. When I started waking up at 5 a.m., I'd do it sporadically whenever I felt it. But as I started to commit to a routine back in May, I found myself doing it more consistently. It went from being a decision every morning to just what I did. Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. was my wake up time. Then, as I stayed consistent, I noticed I was waking up early on weekends too. It wasn't about choosing to wake up at 5 a.m., it was just what I did. No questions asked. And that's what's been happening now also since October, where I got back to the same routine. Now I just wake up every weekend at 5 a.m. and it's just become second nature. That's the power of consistency. Your body and mind adapt. It becomes a part of your routine, not something you have to force. But if you don't stick to a schedule, if you're all over the place with your wake up time, it won't stick. It will always feel like something you're struggling to do instead of something that's been ingrained in your lifestyle. So commit to consistency. If you want to build this habit, aim for 30 to 60 minutes of waking up at the same time every day. I started this on October 1st, and the first few weeks will be tough. Don't expect it to be easy, and that's okay. Remember, it's a work in progress. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just make sure you're keeping your promises to yourself. That's the key to sticking with this, which is keep your promises that you make to yourself. Think of it like you would with your best friend. You'd never break a promise to them. So why break one to yourself? Treat your goals with the same level of importance. When you make a commitment to wake up at 5 a.m., follow through because that's how you're going to build self discipline. Motivation will not always be there. You cannot rely on feeling motivated to get up at 5 a.m. That just won't lead to long term success. And I assure you that because I've been prey to this a million times. What matters is consistently showing up. The more you keep those promises that you make to yourself, the easier it gets. If you live the mindset of getting 1% better each day, I promise it will gradually become easier. It won't be effortless at first, but over time, it will become a part of your lifestyle. And yes, it might feel uncomfortable at times because making a big change always does. But remember, you are capable of doing hard things. You can achieve whatever you set your mind to, and keep that mindset as you push through challenges and work towards becoming that morning person that you want to be, even if you're not one yet. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and I hope you have the most amazing day. And I will see you guys in next week's episode. Until then, keep being that 80-20 girl where we're all about that 80-20 balance.